Hola, me llamo Luis Yepe. What's up, YouTube? Back again with another new video. So I actually filmed this, I believe, 1 or 2 weeks ago, and after editing it all together and watching the video, I didn't really like how it turned out, and I think that's mainly because I feel like I left out a lot of extra details on certain brands, as well as kind of extra opinions that I may have had towards them. So I deleted it and I'm starting over again. So like the title suggests, this will be about 3 Hypebeast brands that have now fallen off, or at least have lost the majority of their popularity. And basically I'm going to be counting down in no particular order. So yeah, I do plan on making this an ongoing series, maybe 2 to 4 videos. I'm not entirely sure at the moment. So if there's any brands that you feel were once pretty hyped that have now completely tanked and have fallen off the face of the earth, feel free to comment those brands below, and maybe they can be included in a second or third or fourth installment of the series. So yeah, let's just get started with number 3. So starting off with number 3, it's going to be Hood by Air. Now, I know that it kind of had its peak popularity. I want to say it was, 2011 or 2012, when everybody was dressed like street goths or health goths or whatever the fuck people called it. And obviously it was worn by Kanye West, A$AP Rocky, which, at least in A$AP's opinion, he started the trend. Other people may disagree, but I think for the most part, I know I agree with that, and I know maybe a lot of other people do as well. And I'd say that once kind of like the street goth / health goth thing kind of died down, the all black everything trend, Hood by Air kind of fell off a bit. I personally never purchased anything from Hood by Air. I wasn't really too big of a fan of the products, in my personal opinion. But I noticed the second fucking A$AP Rocky dropped Multiply, that's when like Twitter was like you could see everybody in the hashtag like for Multiply, everybody was burning their Hood by Air shit. And that's kind of fucking stupid in my opinion, because you probably spent a lot of money on that shit. But I mean, that's just trend hopping, I guess, sheep. But yeah, I don't know. I don't personally think that Hood by Air will ever have that kind of hype again. I mean, maybe some of you can think, oh, it just takes one rapper to rock it again and for it to become super popular. And for some brands, I feel like that does work. But I think the aesthetic has pretty much moved on, and a lot of things aren't really as logo based. And I know a lot of the products from Hood by Air really focused on the logo, at least from what I can recall. And I just don't see that kind of coming back anytime soon, because I know a lot of like clothes right now are kind of really clean, really plain, and there's not too much branding like everywhere. So I'm not entirely sure whether or not they will ever reach that kind of like Hypebeast level of popularity, but I think it's pretty much done. I do know that they have their loyal fan base and who will support the brand regardless of like the trends or regardless of what A$AP Rocky says. And that's pretty cool, because honestly, like if you really enjoy the products that they are making, then who really gives a fuck what a rapper says? But if you're a trend hopping fuckboy who only buys shit because rappers wear it, and you have no thought process other than that, then hey, I mean, then fuck Hood by Air. Anyway, moving on to number 2. This brand was also extremely hyped, pretty much the same era, and it's kind of almost, a lot of the things I'm about to say are pretty much similar to what I just said about Hood by Air, and that is Trill. Now, I personally have nothing against Trill, but once again, I never purchased any of the products. But I remember they had collabs like everywhere. They had the Diamond Supply Co. collab. I think that was kind of when Trill was already dying, though. They had the Hood by Air collab as well, which I think was on RSVP Gallery. And yeah, it was kind of like that, that 2012, 2011 aesthetic, the street goth shit. And I think it was also a brand that really focused on the logo, the hashtags with the Trill and like that spooky fucking ghost bloody, I don't know what the fuck, you know what I'm talking about, that font. And a lot of up and coming brands kind of like use that font on their own kind of little streetwear brands as well. And I feel like once everyone starts to do what you became extremely popular for, and you don't kind of adapt further, it can make you kind of lose all your hype. And then once again, the Multiply fucking video kind of ethered Ben Trill as well. I can't put clips of the song, obviously, but for those of you who heard, that's when A$AP Rocky dissed Hood by Air and Ben Trill, I think a few years ago, actually. I don't remember when it came out, but it feels like it's been a fucking while. And yeah, I mean, like I said, I have nothing against Ben Trill. I know that they do kind of like shit at PacSun now, and I know that's what bothered a lot of people as well, because they liked it better when it was more exclusive and, you know, it wasn't in PacSun, but whatever. I mean, it's probably more beneficial for the brand because that way they can probably sell a ton more product. They do collabs with like Budweiser now, and I think Coca-Cola products. And to be perfectly honest, I've seen some of the stuff on PacSun's website as well as on Grailed, some of the stuff that they're selling, like some of the stuff that people are selling, and it doesn't look that bad. It seems like they've actually stepped away from all like the super like big Ben Trill logos and the hashtags. They kind of like push that to the side, and they're making some pretty clean shit. But I just don't think, once again, just like Hood by Air, that it will ever capture the Hypebeast people. Like, it'll never capture the Hypebeast sheep attention ever again. And I don't really see a lot of like rappers or even YouTubers rocking it. Like, it's pretty much at its low point, but I think that's kind of a shame because, to be honest, the Budweiser and Coca-Cola collab stuff doesn't look half bad. And I actually saw a denim jacket on Grailed with like a tiger on the back, somewhat similar to a souvenir jacket, but I think it looks a lot better because I love denim jackets, if you didn't fucking notice already. And I actually almost considered buying it, but I didn't. If I do buy it, you'll obviously see it in a video. But yeah, I just don't see it ever becoming as hyped as it once was either. And next, moving on to another brand. Some of you might be too young to remember, and then some of you just might have forgotten it existed, because sometimes I know a lot of people do, because I feel like brands come and go so quickly nowadays that it's kind of hard to fully keep track of everything. And number one will be Tisa. For those of you who don't remember or just don't know, that was Taz Arnold's brand, which was extremely popular among rappers and other hip-hop artists, as well as a lot of the hypebeasts at the time, back when the snapback wave was really popping. And I personally think Tisa started it. I know a lot of people want to say it was like the Mitchell and Ness caps and shit, but I think it was definitely Taz Arnold, because if you remember, Tisa was on Big Sean, it was on Chris Brown, it was on Tyga before he became a cornball, and I just remember a lot of people wanting it, but people couldn't afford it. Because if you remember, the retro hats that they had, I think started at $50, and then if you wanted an actual vintage cap, it would range from $100 to almost like $300, $400 back in the day, which is fucking ridiculous for a hat. But I really like Taz Arnold's movement, and if those of you remember his YouTube channel, I think it's still around, he was releasing a ton of dope visuals back then, and I feel like a lot of the stuff that was showcased never came to fruition. And all these rappers that were once wearing it ended up kind of going on their own path and making their own brands. And I think that's kind of one of the reasons why it died, as well as I remember it was a Chris Brown and Tyga interview a few years ago, where they had mentioned that when they would go like on international tours, they would see all the kids wearing Tisa snapbacks, and they were like, holy fuck, all these kids are buying these like $100 hats, and they're like the real ones. So why are we endorsing this product when we could just make our own shit? And that's probably where Tyga came up with Last Kings. That's probably where Chris Brown came up with Black Pyramid. And Big Sean, I think, had a brand as well. I can't remember the name. Was it Aura Gold? I don't remember, so somebody comment below what his brand was. But the rappers who were wearing it, making their own shit, is probably one of the reasons it lost its hype. And number two, I think it never evolved into anything, because they would show like, oh, these loafers are gonna come out, the Tisa loafer project or some shit like that. Never happened, and it just never really kind of changed. They still kind of stayed with like putting their logos on vintage Levi's jackets, but they were all embroidery. It wasn't like screen print like the Pablo shit. And there was the Tisa snapbacks on the vintage caps as well, the retro caps. They did have their own like screen print hoodies and t-shirts that were somewhat similar to the Ralph Lauren Polo Bear. It was pretty much just like almost the same thing, except the Polo Bear would be wearing like Tisa and MCM and shit. And Taz Arnold was extremely influential at the time. And those of you who may have remembered in my old Q&A, I did have, there was a point in my life where I did try to work for Taz Arnold. A buddy and I both tried to work with him on the brand. It never happened. I never got a job, but that's a whole nother story within itself. If you want me to talk about that again, maybe I'll talk about it in a live stream. But yeah, I have nothing against Tisa. I just think its failure to adapt and evolve into something else is one of the reasons that left it behind, as well as the rapper thing like I mentioned. And the amount of fake products, like this brand got knocked off so heavily. Like you would see people would put like Tisa on their fucking New Era cap when they never fucking put that logo on a New Era cap. And I feel like a lot of people thought their fakes were real, even though there was genuinely not that many places to get authentic Tisa shit. So fakes, rappers not wearing it anymore, and it not turning into anything, like the style never changed, is why I think it lost all of its hype. Do I think Tisa can become hyped again? I think Taz Arnold's a pretty creative dude, so I'm actually gonna say maybe, but you never know nowadays because people are kind of changing every second. 1 minute, A$AP Rocky's the most influential person, the next it's fucking Jerry Lorenzo or Kanye or whatever, so it seems like the style scene is ever changing, and maybe once a brand gets left behind nowadays, maybe it can't come back. But I'd love to hear your personal opinion on that. I do have other videos coming soon, as well as this fucking funny ass video that I think a lot of you won't be expecting, so be sure to stay tuned for that. Oh yeah, this is new. I do have to do a fucking like haul video. It might be pretty long, so I might have to separate it into a few videos. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and peace out, YouTube.